Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and today we have the brand new Hillsborough County tax appraiser, Bob Henriquez. Bob, welcome to the show.
Well, it's great to be here. I thank you for this opportunity.
You've got, what, 2 weeks behind you now?
Actually, three.
3?
1 week.
Wow.
Last week was in training. So
You're an old hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I fixed it all, and we're ready to go forward. No, but it's been a wonderful 3 weeks so far.
Now, you said you were in training. I think you indicated that you had been up in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I was in Tallahassee last week for newly elected tax collector and property appraisers training, and it was interesting because there's a tax collector over in Orange County who I served, or actually didn't serve with, but it's a former legislator I knew quite a bit from my time in Tallahassee, and two new property appraisers that I actually served with in Tallahassee as well as state reps, or they were state. One of them ended up being a state senator as well. So it's pretty interesting to see some of those old faces resurfacing, and we had a good time up there.
Let's go back on who Bob really is.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to early days. Where did you come from originally?
Well, I was born and raised here in Tampa, in Hillsborough
Really?
County,
Okay.
fifth generation. So we
Not
go.
many of you.
No. In fact, they don't allow more than 3 of us to gather at one time. No, I'm very blessed to have grown up in this community. On my mother's side, I tell people I'm a product of a mixed marriage. My mother's from Ybor City and my father's from West Tampa. So if you're from this area, you'd understand that used to be a big deal. But my mother's family was in Ybor City. Largely grew up in the cigar industry. My grandfather immigrated from Spain on my mother's side and was a lector, a reader in the cigar factories.
Really?
And an umpire for the Tampa Smokers and an actor, and a very colorful person. On my father's side, my great-grandfather was the last mayor of West Tampa when it was his own city before 1925 when it was annexed by the city of Tampa. So our roots are very deep, and so I grew up here, went to Tampa Catholic High School. Interestingly enough, now 3 of our 4 elected constitutional officers in Hillsborough County all went to Tampa Catholic. So Jesuit folks, watch out, because we're coming. We can't beat you in football, but we can certainly win elections. But no, we're so it's been a wonderful ride, and I'm blessed now. The voters have given me a vote of confidence.
Speaking of football, you have some more roots with Tampa Catholic.
Yeah, my full-time, part-time labor of love for many years, going, I guess, 26 years of coaching high school football and track as well, but mainly high school football. I was the head coach at Tampa Catholic for 17 years, 2 different stints during the 90s, and then again from 2005 until this past season, and had a nice run, had an opportunity to mentor some fine young men and help them hopefully in their lives, move on to college and what have you. It's really been, it means as much as anything else in my life to have had a chance to work with those young men, and they've given me, I've learned as many lessons from them over the years as they've learned from me, and I'll miss it. I resigned this year. Obviously, this job is pretty daunting, but I'm sure I'll still be showing up somewhere around on Friday evenings watching a game here or there, and we'll see what happens, but it's been wonderful.
Now, what did you do as far as college?
Actually, I graduated from Tampa Catholic, and myself and my roommate were the first 2 Tampa Catholic grads to attend Princeton University in New Jersey.
What took you all the way to the Ivy League?
Well, it's interesting. I came down to it. I was fortunate enough to be an All-American football player in high school, and had a lot of opportunities out there. Florida, Mississippi State. There were 5 schools: Duke, Vanderbilt, Florida, Mississippi State, and Princeton. That were my last 5 that I was considering. I ended up signing at Mississippi State. Florida was about to go on probation at the time. And but then I visited Princeton, and I remember coming back from the recruiting trip, and my father meeting me at the plane saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, I said 11. It was just, it was everything I wanted. I mean, it was a great opportunity for somebody coming from my humble beginnings. My father was a painting contractor, house painter. I was first in my family to graduate from college. Again, I maintain I had a Z at the end of my name and could knock people down effectively. So I think that helped get me in. I don't know, but I just thought that there I was going to play football. I was going to participate in sports and athletics, but I was there to get an education first and foremost. And it just was. I was just enchanted by the opportunity. It was very challenging, and I was blessed to have the opportunity to go there. But I always wanted to go away to college. Really wanted to get out of the state and experience some different types of folks, different types of people in different places.
How'd you deal with the cold?
Down. I just say down coats. That's the most important thing, and wool blankets. But I I always wanted to go away to college or to get away, but I always wanted to come back to this community and give back to the institutions and the people that have meant so much to me and given me the opportunities to learn and prepare myself to go away to such a fine school. So it really was, it fit perfectly to come back, and then the rest is history of service, public service to this community.
Well, let's talk about that. When you came back as a fresh college graduate and moving forward, what have you done within the community?
Well, I worked, my first 11 years, I worked in planning, really all aspects of planning, from long-range growth management with the Planning Commission down to customer service, really telling people what they can do with their property, and the Permit Services Center and everything in between. I was a senior planner eventually with Hillsborough County Planning and Growth Management. From there, I went to the Builders Association as their government affairs coordinator back in, I think, 1997, and had a call one day from somebody that says, I'm recruiting for the State House open, well, it wasn't an open seat at the time, but for somebody to run for the State House seat in West Tampa, and your name keeps coming up as somebody I should talk to. This was somebody that was from out of the area. And I said, well, come in and we'll chat. And I handed him a list of about 5 names, and he looked at me like I was crazy, and he said, no, I'm here to talk to you about running for office. And I'd always had at the back of my mind, given my great-grandfather was the last mayor of West Tampa. My cousin Lou Delapart was a very well thought of state senator for many years. And when I was a kid, I was always fascinated with the process and really the public service aspect of really a political science major. I think people thought that I would run for something someday. And went home and thought about it, and we ended up deciding to run back in late 1997 and then to 1998, and won the State House seat in District 58, which is West Tampa, Town and Country, Seminole Heights, parts of the county, and served 8 years.
The other job along with it, because that's really enough to live on.
No, it's actually a really big issue. I think with the state legislature, it's difficult to do both. And not have either be independently wealthy or have a job, be an attorney or someplace where you can make it make sense to your employer. But I was able to work enough sort of consulting and other jobs, along with jobs in engineering firms and other places, doing planning and some consulting on my own, as well as coaching, still coaching.
So you kind of went into business for yourself.
Yeah, somewhat. And then once I was termed out back in 1996, I came back and started Henriquez Consulting, and did some work for some engineering firms, again doing project management, planning and those types of things. And obviously the economy was doing pretty well at the time. I went to work for a company called Atwell Hicks, which was an engineering firm here in town. And then as the economy started to sour, I ran into a good friend of mine, and we talked about, he was the regional director of the Department of Children and Families, and Secretary Butterworth was there, and Governor Charlie Crist was, he was governor at the time, and they all, kind of got together and thought that I would be a good fit to take over their operation, the Department of Children and Families operation in Circuit 6, which is Pasco and Pinellas County. And I was there from 2008 to 2011 until, budget cuts with the new administration came in, and they decided that that was a position that the budget would no longer support. And
saddens me what the administration has done with children and families.
Well, I can tell you this: it was an incredibly difficult job at times, because the subject matter, and it's not just Department of Children and Families. You think mostly in terms of child welfare issues, but think about from 2008 to 2011, the numbers of folks that were going on food stamps or on other government assistance.
Out of work and never taken
right, and most of them, like 60% of them, have never been on any kind of assistance before. And then it also deals with protection of seniors. So that runs the gamut of really difficult issues. At the same time, it was very heartening to work on those issues. If you care about the community and you care about making people's lives better, then the department is very important. It's a tough balancing act between the budget and then what you can do to help people. In some cases, to help them out of the circumstances that they're in. And when you have such a long, protracted period of economic downturn, there's just so much you can do, and it's very difficult. And they've had to make some tough decisions in Tallahassee. I'm not going to go into whether or not they've made all the right budget decisions. That's for another show, I think. But at the same time, I can tell you, and this is the truth, from my heart, when I found out that I was going to lose my position as circuit administrator, I was obviously not happy for my own family.
Sure.
But if it meant that frontline people that were helping individuals and families on a day-to-day basis could keep their jobs, then my position as a an executive level position, I was more than happy to understand and
Sure.
go forward. And I think from that standpoint, they did. They made some tough decisions, but they did flatten the organization, and because the most important thing was to continue to provide services for the people that need it.
And that's what we really need to do.
Absolutely.
What does it cost, $47,000 a year to keep somebody in prison?
I don't know exactly. That sounds about right, though.
And Representative Glorioso, past Representative Glorioso, sitting in your chair right there, told me that 70% of the kids coming through the foster care system will have a criminal record by the time they get to be 18.
We call those crossover kids, and there's a lot of them. We did, and we had some initiatives in Pasco and Pinellas County working with that. In fact, there's some movement towards trying to use the child welfare model of privatization and using community-based care in the juvenile justice arena as well, because they fit together in so many ways. What's happened with budget cuts is the juvenile justice department to some extent has become just a microcosm of the correction system. And there's not as much working with the kids to try to help them with the issues that they have, so that once they exit the juvenile justice system, they don't end up in the Department of Corrections. So that's a whole nother deal. But
you may wonder why I ask you these kind of questions.
Yeah.
But basically, I want the people who are now seeing you in this new job to see the depth of background that you have.
Right. No, and I appreciate that. Absolutely.
You're not just some politician that's all you've ever done is be a politician.
Right.
And I think that's very important, because politics in this country, in many instances, has become a full-time job. And
Right.
they switch from job to job to job to job. You know, all they've done with the term limits is to make you move from position to position, not out of the offices.
And I honestly, I experienced that when I left the State House in 2006. Everybody was saying, well, what are you running for next?
Exactly.
And I actually had toyed with the idea of running for the city council. There was an open position there. Had filed to run, and then really sat down and did some soul searching and withdrew from the race, because I realized I was doing it just because everyone said, well, you have to stay in the game.
Right.
And I never had treated it as a game, and was more than happy to take a step back. And I was newly remarried and started a family, and I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and did some other things in the meantime. Had an opportunity, because of the circumstances of this race, good, better, and different. Was able to sit down, and what really drew me to this was not a partisan position. I saw this as really a job interview,
exactly.
in which at the end of the day, who had the better resume, and the voters of Hillsborough County saw it that way. I was in no hurry to get back into Tallahassee and deal with
and yet they
the ideology. And then they sent me right back. I'll tell you, I didn't stray far from the hotel. I didn't get near downtown, but no, listen, at the same time, as much as I joke about my time in Tallahassee, it was an incredible experience.
Well, I think it'll make you better in this job, having had the legislative experience. So let's talk about this job.
Okay.
You're 3 weeks into it. How did you find the office when you walked in? I mean, somebody showed you where the door was.
Yeah, I was going to say, I worked there. Originally, when they opened the county center, I was working there, so I knew how to get to the building.
You know how to get to the building.
I found the office, and a lot of this I kind of knew from my research during the campaign, and then during the transition, that it was an office that by and large was being very well run. Mr. Turner, again, good, better, and different. The office, the perception, and the truth is that it's one of the better offices really in the state, if not the country, in terms of its fair and equitable valuation of property. There's some really talented folks there. What I found, though, that the office, as with anything, 16 years later, the office had lost a bit of its edge, and that there seemed to be an enthusiasm gap between the rank and file employees, as you might suspect, given some of the circumstances. And then I think over the course of time, with the leadership, had just sort of, there just was this split. Now that doesn't mean that they weren't getting along and that there were real problems, but I think that what I brought was sort of a breath of fresh air, a new kind of management style. My coaching experience being whatever that coach is, a player's coach, but someone that they know is going to walk around from time to time and pat them on the back or ask them how their family's doing, or or what's going on, how their weekend was. Those kinds of things go a long way for a staff that's been beleaguered somewhat, but in the paper, even by extension.
This got to have been
right.
really difficult for the entire staff.
Sure, and even by extension, they were drawn into that, even though they had their nose to the grindstone doing the work that they have to do every day. But it's never good to have your office in the paper for negative reasons. And so I think that they were relieved to get a chance to meet me and see the new direction and where we're headed and what I want to try to do in terms of employee relations, making people feel even more valued. It's difficult times out there and everywhere, but in the public sector, they've gone 5 or 6 years without any raises. And those kinds of things, and they see in the newspaper and the national news the public employees getting beaten up. What I've said is, let's go in there, let's make them feel more valued. Whether it be the pat on the back or the team picnic, we're going to try to do more things to make them do that. We're also going to do a lot more employee training, because what I've found is there's 16% of the office that's in drop, and for the viewers, that means the 16% of the office basically is going to retire in the next 2 to 5 years, or 2 to 4 years.
There goes a lot of corporate memory.
And some of these are longest term employees. Some of it's a big brain drain. So, but really there hasn't been an effort to do some strategic planning towards that end to make sure that the organization's healthy from top to bottom. So we're going to do a lot more training, and we're going to put together a new org chart that recognizes where people are retiring and how we're going to mentor folks to be ready to step into those positions, or how we're going to attract some of the best into those positions if they're not from within. So that's going to be that's really big, and we're beefing up our community relations department. I brought on a wonderful young lady to take over that function. We had a retirement prior to my taking over, and so Neria Cormier is taking over that. She's doing a wonderful job, hit the ground running.
She is so easy to talk with.
Yeah, she's something.
She's so quick to get information back. I'm really delighted that I get to deal with her.
Don't say too much, because then she'll want to raise or something. But it's not that easy in the public sector, so we'll be okay. No, she's doing a great job. And then Bill Ward came on board with me as a public information officer, and he's helping not only to sing the good news of the office, but finding ways to communicate with the electorate, and with not just the electorate, but with Hillsborough County folks and property owners in ways that maybe we haven't in the past. And he's going to help us immeasurably with customer service, with our website, as we bring that up to speed. It really is antiquated, and we're doing some work on that. And then we're going to really take a look at the technology in the office and make sure that we're state of the art, so that literally we're the best in the country when it comes to being efficient and effective using technology in concert with the very talented people we have in the office.
Well, social networking is so important anymore. I mean,
right.
Granted, there are a lot of old fossils that Facebook and all this, but I've got 3,350 friends on Facebook around the world.
Well, tell them all to like our Facebook page, because we have one now. We didn't have one. That was day one. That was we had a Facebook page
come
day
like
one.
Me first.
Absolutely. So people are starting to take advantage of that and liking our Facebook page, and we're keeping it up to date with pictures. I'm sure, this interview there'll be pictures from me here and goings on, not just with me, but we're spotlighting staff members, things like that they're doing a good job, or they've been there a long time, or other noteworthy things. Ways to keep up with deadlines. There's so many of the applications and things that go on in terms of the valuation of your property. There's deadlines for it. So we want to communicate in ways that people are communicating now. The old days people, old school, your school or my school, wanted to meet somebody face to face, but sometimes it's logistically not very difficult. I mean, not very easy for somebody to come down to the office. We have satellite offices, but if you don't want to see somebody face to face, then some people want to talk on the phone. Well, we have that covered. Well, we haven't quite got to Skype yet, but we're gonna have a mobile app for our website. Our website's going to be state of the art, whether it be email, whether it be the best customer relations that we can offer over the phone or in person. We're going to provide more opportunities to do applications online. We're going to give opportunities for people when they come down during the heavy traffic times to do their applications online, but in our office at a separate kiosk, so they don't have to stand in line if we're backed up and those kinds of things. And they'll still have the opportunity to sit down with a staff member and have them help them as well. So there's lots of things we're working on. We're going to have after our first 100 days, we're going to have an open house. We're going to roll out some of the ideas that we're working on. And I'm really valuing this particular time. I told our staff and all of the unclassifieds, which are the exempt folks, they're not exempt folks that basically work at my behest. Some of those folks have been there many years. They're very talented. I said, listen, you're all on probation. I'm not going to fire you, but I'm not going to come and clean house, whatever that means. But we're going to go on a 6-month probation. I'm on a 3.5 or 4 year probation. You're on a 6 months probation, and and they haven't been evaluated. They haven't been evaluating the unclassified employees for many years. So we're going to go back to that and keep them on their toes a little bit. But at the same time, we're going to be more nimble. We're going to try to really improve the office to the extent that we can.
Well, I think the lights will be on in your office more often, correct?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Although they're automatic, anybody walks by, they seem to pop on. I have to make sure to turn the automatic thing off. But no, I'll be there.
Rob, because of his stature nationally, and maybe even internationally, was gone a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him to death. He was here on this program any number of times talking about new things that had come along or special things that seniors ought to take care of or whatever. And he was extremely knowledgeable, but because he was president or incoming president or some of these national organizations, he was gone.
Yeah, he just took over as president of the IAAO, which is the International Assessors Association. And I look at the history, and he came in, and he had been a banker. He had some background in assessing, not a whole lot more than me, frankly, even though, and he set about a course of really learning. He took the courses necessary, which I will be doing as well, and then took it to another level. I think where perhaps what you're speaking to is that at some point there became a disconnect because he was so busy doing outside things. And it's hard not to. And I understand, again, we're 16 years. It's a long time. I don't think they're going to have to worry about that with me. I'm very content to be in that office and to work hard and make sure that everybody else is doing the same. And so maybe, I guess maybe the light bill in the county center will go up a little bit.
I turned down a presidency of an international organization because I knew I couldn't do my job and do that also.
Yeah, well, it'll be years and years before I'll raise myself to any kind of stature to think about international.
Who knows?
International positions, but I'm just blessed and just as pleased as I could be to have this position, and that the voters gave me this opportunity, and that they saw fit to put this responsibility in my hands. It means the world to me, and I'm going to work very hard every day to make them proud.
Speaking of that, speaking of the voters, I don't know what your percentage win was in the primaries or in the final, but some people didn't vote for you.
Right.
And I have a feeling, having learned who you are now, that you're going to represent everybody.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to give you a minute or two just to talk directly to the folks, the ones that supported you, to thank them, and to reassure those that didn't, your office door is open too.
Right. Well, first of all, it's an interesting thing that happens once you're elected. Since November, I haven't met anybody that didn't vote for me. And I guess if you're a property owner in Hillsborough County, you're going to tell me that. So I know there's a certain 40-some% out there that didn't, but we'll work on that. I want to, and this is a great opportunity for me to speak directly to the voters of Hillsborough County, and really the citizens of Hillsborough County, and particularly the property owners. And there's 525,000 property owners of one type or another, whether it be residential, commercial, or industrial, that we have the constitutional duty to fair and equitably evaluate or value. I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And to say that I was humbled by the results on election night would be an understatement. They blew me away, to be honest with you. But I understand that the charge that you've given me, and and honestly the responsibility that I've undertaken, and I will work every day to make sure that that office is run just as efficiently and as effectively as it can be. I'm sure we won't make everybody happy. We're dealing with taxes and dealing with valuations of property. And fortunately or unfortunately, it looks as though we're on a good trajectory with the economy. It's starting to pick up a little bit, and home values and property values will start to rise. So hopefully it'll be slowly and incremental over the course of a long term, rather than the kind of meteoric rise that we saw in the mid-2000s. But I can tell you our office is open and available. It's your right administratively to have your valuation looked at. If it's something that you don't agree with or don't understand, We're going to try to find ways to communicate with you, and when you receive your trim notice or your notice of evaluation, if there's something you don't understand on there, please call our office, contact us by email or Facebook or what have you, and we'll look into it and try to be as fair as we can. You have the right to challenge those through the VAB process or circuit court should it reach that point, but we're going to try to do everything we can to make you feel like you're valued because you own this office. I'm simply the person that you've hired to run it, and that's my charge, and that's my commitment to the voters. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you again.
You know, I have to say, you talk about charge, going in and saying, well, wait a minute, I don't agree. I did that, and they came out and looked at my property very carefully, measured, did all this stuff, found a big concrete pad that had not been on the original valuation,
right,
and added it.
Added it, okay. Well, so you were hiding from us.
And I've got satellite pictures going back forever. That pad had been there long before I ever got there.
Well, you know, it's really interesting.
But the guy found it when he.
The state law now allows you to utilize pictometry or to be able to virtually assess property.
Oh, really?
And technology is to the point that you literally, it's within a 6-inch range that you can, with pictometry, which is this really high-tech photographic imagery, be able to go down to the level and be able to literally measure additions and things like that. And state law allows you to do it as part of your evaluation or valuation of property. You still have to go out there and physically inspect them.
So you have that in your office?
We do have. We have the technology that hasn't been utilized a great deal. Now, things like docks. I think that one of the staff members went on a couple years ago and put something like $2 million in the tax roll of just docks, because you can go out. Because obviously there isn't an issue with trees or foliage, so you can see a dock out into a lake or what have you. But in Pinellas County, for instance, about 40% of their field evaluations are no longer field evaluations. Now they're using pictometry. So there's technology that's going to allow us to be efficient and effective. Now at the same time, people still, there's a little bit of, people are a little bit afraid of using technology, but frankly, there's an awful lot of folks that won't let somebody in your backyard. What I would caution people is if we knock on your door, we're not there to try to hammer you, but if you put an addition on your house and you say, well, we don't have to let you in our backyard, then we're going to be guessing. It's probably better to let somebody go back there with a tape measure or a laser and figure it out, or we might be going on using an aerial pictometry to figure it out.
Well, you've got an eye in the sky and you've got an eye to the ground.
We don't have no drones, though. We don't have drones. So,
Bob, this has been wonderful to have you on the program. We've run out of time as usual, so I hope you'll come back with us when we ask.
Absolutely, and we're going to roll out some really interesting things over the next 6 to 8 months or a year, and we hope to come back and just like Rob did, try to educate the voters.
Great. Love to talk about all these different exemptions and things. I'm Bill Hodges. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often, because you are, We've had Bob Henriquez, our brand new Hillsborough property appraiser, on with us. Bob, it's wonderful to have you on the program.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.